Mental Health Podcast, aiming to spread awareness on mental health by sharing the real-life stories of those who've experienced it firsthand. Hello, Mr. Hugh!
Hello, Matty Burke.
What's up, man?
Not a whole lot, man. Just hanging out. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, no worries.
I really appreciate it.
Anytime I can get people to listen to me talk, I'm sad.
I sign up for it. I say,
yeah, I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Just see, really, that's pretty vulnerable that way. Fuck it, you can trick me into talking about anything, and I'll probably do it.
That's awesome. Good to know. You're tall as fuck. How tall are you?
6'7", but I don't look 6'7". I feel like I'm a 6'7", but I look 6'5".
Okay.
I don't carry myself like a 6'7" person.
What does a 6'7" carry themselves?
Like a badass, like confident, and they can own anything in the room. For me, I think I just speak loud so people can hear me, and I got the double whammy where I'm loud and I'm tall, so I'm good. But I don't know. Anytime I talk to someone, like everyone will always guess my height, and it'll always be like 6'3", 6'4", and I always just pull out the 6'7", and
wow.
yeah, exactly. It does well for me. I hit the genetic lottery. Really, I'm tall, white, and a male.
Yeah.
So I can't.
And you're starting to go great.
Fuck
yeah. 20.
The big 23.
23. Yeah. Which is sexy, I think.
I think it's cool. It adds a little bit of mystery to me.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't know if I'm tall or if I'm old or young. Just premature gray going on.
You kind of look like Hugh Hefner. Has anyone ever told you? Like a tall Hugh Hefner.
A tall Hugh Hefner. I hope in his glory days. I hope not in the days.
Not towards the end.
Like not the days leading up to his death. That would be shitty.
Like 1970s.
Like, okay, I'll deal with that. That was before everything he was doing wasn't viewed as misogynistic and bad. So
no, dude.
In his glory days.
Yeah. No, just Playboy Mansion, the good times.
Exactly, the good times, the Playboy Mansion. Just owning women.
When it was looked as the good times.
Yeah, exactly. when everyone wanted to go.
Yeah.
Not in like those dark, depressing times.
Yeah.
It wasn't that good, but I'll take it. Okay.
So tell me about your life, man.
I grew up in Oakville, Ontario. I was born in Toronto. I learned early when moving here that I should just tell people from Oakville and not Toronto, because they always I feel like people out here think that we're better than them, which is true, but
They can't handle the truth, so I lie to them?
Exactly. No, and then I'm from Oakville. I moved out here. My grandma's from Alberta, PEI.
Cool.
Which is like way out there.
Sure.
So I came here for cottage, like to the cottage every summer, and went to university at UPEI. And I loved it here, so I've been staying as much as possible.
Played basketball at UPEI too?
Yeah, I didn't play much. I didn't. I rode the bench for like 3 years, but I guess my highlight at UPI basketball was tricking them into putting me on the back of our bus, like our school bus. So like if you'll literally see, I haven't played in 2.5 years, and you'll still see me holding the basketball, looking all badass on the back of the bus.
That's awesome.
And everyone, I remember when that happened, everyone was confused because like this guy averages like 6 minutes a game. Why is he on the back of the bus? I was just there in the right place at the right time.
Right.
Yeah, but I played. That was fun. That was a good time, and everyone loved the basketball team here, so I kind of reaped the benefits off of that.
Yeah. And you got your face on the back of the book. That's good marketing.
Good marketing, yeah. I'll just use that picture for the rest of my life. Like if I don't amount to anything, it's just I got myself on the back of the bus in Prince Edward Island.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, that's an achievement.
Yeah, I'll take it.
It is. What has your experiences been with mental health wise?
Growing up, I feel like this is a case with a lot of people that like growing up, it's not ignored, but the symptoms of it aren't associated with mental health, especially even with us, like we're born in the late 90s, like it still wasn't prevalent up until like the early 2010s. Like that's when a lot of people started talking about it. So I think I've been struggling with, anxiety and depression, and I was diagnosed in, I'd say, my first year of university, which was 2015. But growing, and now looking back at it, I've been dealing with those symptoms and those kind of side effects of all of that and what depression and anxiety is for my whole life. But I didn't really find out till 2015. And I always say this, that like I feel like I would have been better off if I wasn't told by the doctor that, like, I went in, told him all my symptoms, they did some tests and stuff, and he's like, yeah, you've got severe adult anxiety and you've got depression. And I think that's when I started going downhill in terms of, like, dealing with everything and, like, becoming overwhelmed with it. That was when it started. That was in 2015. Because I think when someone tells you something's wrong with you, that's when you start convincing yourself. Like, because with mental health and shit, it's all literally mental. It's in the name. But if you can't wrap your head around it, I think that's becomes more of an issue. And I think so. Like, everything started kind of hitting me like a ton of bricks once I got diagnosed. But I feel like I would have been better off if they didn't tell me. I'm happy I was told, but like I didn't start noticing everything. I guess the long-winded answer here is I didn't start noticing anything until 2015. But once they told me about the symptoms and everything, it was like, fuck, my whole life makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was diagnosed with ADHD as well. And that, growing up, I feel like if I knew I had ADHD growing up, that would have helped me a lot too, in terms of school and everything. But I think I was hit with 3: ADHD, depression, and anxiety all at once. And I think that was overwhelming for me. So that took me a while to not even get over, but like come to terms with, if you know what I mean.
You might not have also, did you understand what all that meant
at
the time?
No.
Yeah.
No. Because, like, if you look at the media and you looked at my life, like, my parents, they were never separated. Like, it was a super happy marriage. I've got really close brother and sister, and, like, I wasn't having trouble making friends or anything like that. So when I was told I've got depression and anxiety, I'm like, that doesn't even make sense, because I didn't really know the details of it, but I just, through the media, it wasn't adding up. Like, I wasn't like the stereotypical person who would be depressed. I wasn't like the stereotypical person who had anxiety. Like, socially, I had no problem talking to people and anything like that. And so I think my another problem was just trying to differentiate what it truly was, because you were told by the media and shown by the media in what they were to them, and like what, I guess, like the commercial anxiety and depression is, and that just didn't feel like me. So it was confusing, and I was in denial about it for a long time. It's like, it's bullshit. Like, there's no way I've got depression. Like, I'm not fucking depressed, and I don't have anxiety. Like, until I really learned about it. And I think that's really important, that you have to learn about it. Like, you have to, because everyone deals with it differently. And I didn't think it was unique to each person. I just thought it was like the flu, where, like, there's pretty much one strain of flu. Like, obviously it like can get worse or better, but pretty much like, I thought it was just one. There's one definition for it, and I think through the years I've learned that there's, like, it's just unique to everyone. Like, you have to deal with each diagnosis so differently, and that's, I think, the biggest, I guess, stigma behind it, that, like, everyone deals with the same and everyone has the same symptoms, and I think that's totally bogus, in my opinion.
Right. At what point in your life did you notice symptoms, looking back, do you think?
Looking back at it, I think just through my whole school life. Like, in high school, and like putting everything, I would associate a lot of my what's it called when you procrastination. Mm-hmm. I associate that with just me being a lazy kid in school. But
right,
like,
yeah.
I always found I've always dealt with all my issues last minute. Like, in even not even issues, but like even responsibilities all last minute. I realized that was a symptom of anxiety and depression, by just pushing it off until you have to do it, because that would make me anxious. Like, banking. Like, I'm afraid to look into my banking accounts when, like, I've got no issues. I don't know why, but like anytime I have to pay off my credit card bill, it's like literally to the last minute. Like, okay, fuck, I got to do this, or I'm gonna get fucked with that. So I like, and I did that my whole life. I'm all over the place here, but
it's all good.
But with the banking, with really anything, when I had to put anything last minute, and then the doctor was telling me, like, that's a symptom of depression, then I look back, I'm like, holy shit, like, that's been my whole life. And I feel like it would have been nicer to know when I was growing up, because it would have been helpful, but I think that was the biggest thing. I think another thing I'm very passive. I'd avoid conflict a lot because I didn't want to disappoint people.
Yeah.
And that was another thing I learned. That was a symptom of one of my of anxiety and depression, is that like I was afraid I would avoid conflict at all cost. And looking back at it now, that would just cause more conflict in the future with me. So like everything is like, I feel like now my whole life is just like I've been dealing with this my whole life, so it would have been nice to know earlier, but it's, you know, I'm tackling it now, so it's all good.
Right. Interesting. So at the time of your diagnosis, 2015, did you were you prescribed anything?
Yeah, and that's another thing I'd like to talk about. I haven't found the right medication for me yet, but I was at first they just thought they should give me ADHD pills to deal with that, which was Vyvanse, and I felt like that didn't help at all. If anything, it made it worse, and because it would make you, it would allow, like it says you're allowed, it allows you to focus on one or two things, or one thing at once, rather than me, like I would have everything in my brain going at the same time.
Yeah.
It was supposed to slow things down. If anything, that stressed me out more, because then I would just focus more on like, okay, I'm taking these pills for something that's wrong with me. And like I was in denial at the time too. So that didn't work out. I got prescribed with this thing called teibobenloflaxine, which is for depression and ADHD as well. But I think I'm still trying to get over the whole taking pills, and I think that's a form of denial as well, because once you accept that like you do need help with stuff, it's good. But like I've been trying more talking it out with people and going to therapists rather than the drug route, because for some reason it just freaks me out. It just but I'm still working on taking them consistently. Right now I'm still doing taking teibobenloflaxine, but that's a mouthful. But when I go home, I want to try to switch up what I'm taking, just to see if that works, because a lot of people, when you read, it takes them years to figure out the right medication for them.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't think I'm comfortable with my medication, and I haven't been since I got prescribed it.
So does it help or make you feel weird, or side effects, or?
I think I don't think it helps as much as I'd like it to. I don't have many side effects, but I think I get in my own head when I take it, and so like I find once I'm taking pills, I'm thinking more about that. There's actually something going on in my head, if you know if that makes sense. Like. So I think if anything, that makes me more anxious. Like it kind of stresses me out more, because I guess it's becoming more real. It's not like I'm ignoring my symptoms or anything like that, but it's just more relevant in my life as every morning when I take the pills. And I think I always do better when I'm not focused solely on the fact that I've got, and like I always say, like I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with me, but I don't know. I still haven't wrapped my head around the drugs. It's I think that's something I got to work out with my therapist in dealing with that, because it's I don't know. I don't know where I am here with that, but I lost my train of thought. My bad.
Yeah, no worries, man. That's interesting. I think that's kind of a journey that a lot of people seem to be on or go on to find the right medication.
I think a lot of people, when I first started taking medication, I just thought I was going to be better immediately. Like it was going to be good. And so I think a lot of my problems with the medication is that since it still takes so long and you still have to do work along with taking the medication, and I get frustrated with the fact, okay, like how come this isn't working like a snap? Like how come this isn't working immediately? And I think that's been a lot of my issues too. Like I'm trying to get over that.
Yeah.
Is that it's such a long process,
mm-hmm.
and people don't fully get better really ever. But people don't get better and don't come to terms with things for years after their diagnosis, and it's a slow process. And I think that's the hardest part, is how slow the process actually is.
Yeah, I think one of my guests was saying it can take up to 2 months just to see if that's the medication that'll work, or if it's going to work.
Exactly, and that's like when I hear that, it's like, fuck, why am I even trying that? Like I want to be better now,
right?
And that's the biggest issue, is that you got to be patient with it. You can't just take a pill and the next day you're good. And I think that's the biggest, I guess, like preconceived idea of when you're taking pills, that it's going to work right away, but it just doesn't.
The way I've been described, the way it's been described to me, how they work is kind of like, it kind of like brings you not better, but it brings you up to baseline where you can start to work to feel better. And a lot of people I've talked to said kind of similar things. It just kind of brings them up to baseline, and then you can work to there, work from there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I think my biggest mistake at the beginning of when I was taking medication was that that's not the mindset I was at. Like I was saying, I thought when I was taking them, I was like, I didn't have to do any work. The drugs were going to do all the work for me.
Right.
And I don't think I was really ready to do any work because, again, I was still in denial, and I was still like just refusing that, like I was depressed or I had anxiety. So I was just thinking, I'll do this and I'll ignore it. But it's kind of like when you're working out, you can work out all you want, but if you're not eating right, you're not really going to see many results. And that's the same with the drugs. Like, you can take all the drugs you want, but if you're not treating your body right, if you're not treating your mind right, then all those drugs are going to go to waste.
Yeah. You also probably didn't know how to work on it yourself too.
No clue.
Apart from the drugs.
Oh gosh, no. And it took me so long to find a therapist that worked, and even now I don't really have a therapist that works. I'm still working on that. But I think I talked to, like, from when I got diagnosed until now, I've seen like 6 or 7 different people, and that's another thing where I thought that was going to be immediate, where I was going to talk to the first person and they were going to help, but I found it takes time to talk to the right person, and it's really important to talk to the right person, but it's not going to happen right away. And I dealt with so many frustrating times where I would talk to someone and they just seemed like they were just reading out of a book, and like that wasn't helping a lot. And the more people that I would talk to and it wouldn't work out, the more I was like, fuck this. Like,
getting discouraged.
Yeah, I'd stop trying. Like it was almost like I hit my quota of like, I tried my best and now I'm good. Like, I don't have to try anymore. It just didn't work out. So
right, yeah.
We're all good.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I think talking to the right person can be super beneficial. I got super lucky. The counselor I found for grief was the right one for me, but yeah, it seems like it can be hard to find the right one, but definitely okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're just kind of talking about how like not getting it out, and you can be your own worst enemy holding it in. I've been a victim of that many times, but yeah, it's so bad to hold it in, man.
Oh, it's tough, and like we were just saying earlier, it's just like you feel like you get in your own head, and then you convince yourself that like people don't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. People don't want to. Like, it makes other people feel uncomfortable that you're talking about mental health and something so personal, and so you start to shut in, and like you said, you become your own worst enemy, and you become your biggest obstacle to get over this, because you have this voice in your head convincing you that, oh, like, he doesn't want to hear this, like, she doesn't want to spend her time listening to me and talk about my sob story. But I think the most important thing is just being so open about stuff and just being an open book, because it allows other people to understand what you're going through, and it allows other people to kind of get a look in on what you're dealing with. Because on the surface, like, half these people who deal with depression and mental illness, they don't really look like it does. Like, there's no look of depression, there's no look of mental illness, and then you get so surprised when someone coming along like down the line, you learn that, oh, this person's been struggling about this for so long, and it kind of breaks your heart, because you hear someone went through something or they try to harm themselves, and you're like, fuck, like, if only I knew. Mm-hmm. But there's no way of knowing unless you talk about it. And that's something I want to avoid. Like, I don't want to have people just be in the dark with all that stuff, because it kind of makes you feel guilty and it makes the other person who didn't know feel guilty, and that's just, it's unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I think kind of what we were talking about before, how you said, like, according to the media, there was nothing wrong with you, or like the picture, what we think of someone depressed or anxious or going through mental health struggles, like, that's like the worst trap you can get yourself into, is like my life is good, why am I feeling like anyone can feel like this? It has absolutely nothing to do with anything external. It's internal, right? It doesn't matter like what any situation is, like if everything's great or everything's bad, it's internal.
Yeah, I think it's important to treat it as any other sickness, where you could be a perfectly healthy person, then one day you can just catch a fever for 3 days. Like, that's just the way it goes. But I think with mental illness, and I think I said it before, is that it's unique to everyone. Like, there's no book where you can open up and this is how you deal with anxiety, and everyone can follow those guidelines. It may work for one person, but for 10 other people, it's not going to work. And that's why it's important that you have to be able to express it yourself, because unless you let people know what you're dealing with, no one is ever going to be able to learn it themselves. Like, it's like I said, there's no book on how to treat someone, and there's no guideline. It's just, it's unique to every individual.
Yeah,
you deal with it in so many different ways. Like, for me, I dealt with my depression with just sleeping excessive amounts, avoiding people, like turning off my phone and just racking up notifications on my phone. I was just not able to answer because I just was in my own head. It stressed me out to get a text message, and it stressed me out to get emails, and I have no idea why, but like, I just couldn't answer them, and I couldn't answer a phone call. And I would be like MIA for like 3 weeks, and just in my basement, just doing nothing, because I couldn't, like, talking to other people just stressed me out, and I have no idea why. So it's unique to everyone, but everyone deals with it differently, and until you can talk to someone about it freely, you're always going to be dealing with some shit.
Yeah, I think it gets worse like tenfold the longer you don't let it out. The longer you don't keep it in,
Yeah. Oh, completely. Like, looking back at it, and you said your other, you had a girl on earlier, and she said as soon as she was able to express it, everything became easier. Mm-hmm. And looking back at it, I wish I was able to express it earlier and talk about it earlier, because so many things in my life would have been a lot easier if I had done that.
Right. So, does the depression just come and go, or
Yeah, which is the hardest part too, because I can go months of just feeling okay and feeling good, and then all of a sudden and you don't really, there's no way of knowing it, that it's going to come out, and then all of a sudden one day I wake up and it's a struggle to get out of bed. Like, you feel physically exhausted almost, and there's no way of knowing it's coming, and everything becomes so much harder just to do the easiest thing, like to eat. Like, I'll go days where I just don't eat because I just don't want to. Like, it's so much effort to do it, and I just feel like I don't have to do this today. Like, you just do the bare minimum.
Right.
Yeah, and then you just lay in bed and look at your phone, and what you think is you've been laying in bed looking at your phone for 30 minutes. It turns out it's like 3 hours.
Yeah. Just gonna lose yourself in it.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then you kind of start using it as an excuse. Like, I would just do, I don't have to do this because I'm feeling shitty today. And I think once you're able to get over the fact, like, you still have to be a functioning human being, and you can still, it's not debilitating, and you have to convince yourself that it's not, because if you don't, then you're just gonna fall into a hole of just really unhealthy mentally and physically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can't let it stop you from attempting to do healthy things.
Yeah, you're fighting with yourself. You're battling yourself. And you've got to win every time, because if you lose, then it's so easy to just fall into that trap of just accepting that you're depressed and whatever. This is me, and like you can't let. And a lot of people say that you can't let depression or anxiety define you, because once it does that, then you kind of just embody that, what depression is to yourself. And I don't know, it's exhausting though. Like it really is. I don't want to take anything away from that, because it's a constant effort to fight that off.
What are some things you do on a daily basis that helps you?
Just walking outside. Like, fresh air it's crazy how, and out here I love it because you get the nice salt air and whatnot, but just walking outside and then even talking to yourself and saying like, okay, I'm good, like treating everything like it's an accomplishment, as silly as that sounds. Like, oh, I walked outside for 30 minutes, that's really good, like good for you. Like you have to be super positive and super, because on the other hand, when you get into a mode of, like I get into a mode of depression, everything I do becomes negative. And so I find if I just flip that on the outside, rather than, oh, I only went outside for 30 minutes, like you piece of shit, like you lazy son of a bitch. It's like, man, I went outside for 30 minutes, that's good. It was 30 minutes more than what I did yesterday.
Yeah.
And being active, talking to people, reaching out to people, like that all helps. And like I said, again, just treating everything like it's an accomplishment really helps, because just a pat on your back goes so long. It's such a long way. And if you just, you have to be confident, you have to just let you win those days. Like you have to win the day kind of thing. And I listen to that, I forget who, but I listen to that on a podcast where you just have to win the day. And once you do that, you try to win tomorrow. And then you kind of, without even knowing it, you've gotten out of your funk.
Yeah, man, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I've been kind of going through some of that, and there's just like, I think what it is there's like check boxes you have to hit every day, and you have to figure out what they are for you, and then you have to just hit them every day.
Yeah, exactly. And even if they're little things, like I said, going outside, doing your laundry, making yourself food rather than buying it. But once you see those, like even if it's on a piece of paper in your head, once you see those check marks, like once you see those boxes crossed off, it's a sense of accomplishment. You're like, okay, like I can still function. Like I'm still a functioning human being. I can still do good things.
Right.
So don't get lost in all of the negative things that you're doing wrong, because that's what got you there in the first place. If you create these little wins every day, then it's bad. It's inevitable that you're gonna start feeling better about yourself. You have to find ways and excuses to feel better about yourself, because this whole thing, depression and everything, it attacks you and it makes you feel lesser of a human being.
Yeah, 100%. So walking helps, and then connecting with people.
Yeah.
Talking out your problems, talking to people in general.
Just talking to people in general. Just being social. And just stepping out of your comfort zone and really, like, even if you just write your stuff down, and writing all your thoughts down, and just because I find if you keep everything in your own head, it's just you're gonna get overwhelmed with everything you're thinking about. So if you just kind of like just write all your shit on a piece of paper and just keep those, and you can look back at them. Like if you're having a bad day and you're writing down all the stuff you're thinking on a bad day, it's amazing actually. Like I've gone days where I've had really shitty days and mentally, and I write down the way you think when you're in a bad day, having a bad day mentally, and a good day is like night and day. And it's almost like, fuck, like I never want to be like that guy. It was having a rough day. Yeah. And it's kind of, if you start to understand what you're like on those shitty days, then that's awesome too, because then you can use that as a reference to just never do that.
Yeah. I find too, it takes some of the power away from it too. If you write it out and then you look at it and you're like, this isn't your rational brain can kind of look at it and be like, this isn't like how I actually, like, I can't believe I'm thinking this. Like,
exactly. It doesn't even seem like yourself. Like,
yeah.
You'd be so surprised at, and if no one's done it before, like I urge them to do it, because you'd be so surprised as to what you sound like. You don't recognize yourself when you're having those shitty days and and those mental down days, because it really isn't you. It's not you, and it's not who you are, and it's kind of motivation to never be that person.
Right.
And when I started doing that, I was having less bad days because I just didn't want to. Like I didn't want to sound shitty. I didn't want to be that hard on myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Well, I love everything you said. I think you said some really good advice for people. And I really appreciate you coming on to share some of your story, man.
Yeah, no worries, dude. At any time. Like I love what you're doing here too, and I think more people need to do it. And anytime I can help, I'm there.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, dude. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.